Hello everyone, welcome back. Um Today I'm making this video because I want to touch base on a few things about episodic ataxia. A common misperception on this very rare neurological disorder. That a lot of people don't seem to understand or realize. Because the name episodic ataxia, it sounds very simple, but it's actually very complex and is a complicated form of ataxia. Because the name episodic ataxia leads to common misperceptions on how the disorder works. Because the name suggests that the disorder is episodic, there are up to currently 9 types of episodic ataxias. There are a few that have known genes that can be tested for through genetic testing. Not all of them are available, but with episodic ataxia type 2 specifically, associated with the gene CACNA1A, is often associated with other things like progressive cerebellar degeneration or atrophy. It's not just episodic ataxia, and that's it. While the person can experience sporadic episodes where it seems like the disorder is episodic in nature, they can very much develop a gradual ataxia that is slowly progressive. Kind of similar to any other type of ataxia. So, the misperception here is that episodic ataxia type 2 specifically is only episodic. And you're given a medication called exozolamide, and it takes away the episodes of the condition. It's really not that simple. For one thing, a person with episodic ataxia can still be on the medication and can have uncontrollable episodes. It does not seem to help everyone, and it doesn't seem to help or sometimes it helps a person and sometimes it doesn't. It doesn't take it all away. For one thing, it has been reported that exozolamide, the medication, is to help control the episodes or the attacks of dizziness and unsteadiness associated with episodic ataxia type 2. It is not meant to slow down progressive cerebellar atrophy or degeneration, the process of the deterioration and dying of the nerve cells within the cerebellum, which is located back here in the back of the brain. And the cerebellum is responsible for muscle control, coordination, balance, your ability to coordinate your tongue, your speech, your eye movements, and everything under the sun. So it's just the medication exozolamide is basically to help control the episodes of dizziness and the unsteadiness associated with the dizziness, the vertigo. It does not take away the permanent effects you get from the cerebellar atrophy. which is a progressive dying of nerve cells within the cerebellum. Once the damage is done, it continues to deteriorate. Okay, it's not reversible. However, just like any type of ataxia, you can help try to slow it down and reverse some of the progression of symptoms through diet and exercise. So it's not like it's just a cure-all for episodic ataxia. You take a medication, you have no issue whatsoever. It's just, it's more complicated than that, okay? Another disorder within the gene that's very similar is spinocerebellar ataxia type 6. Is associated with the gene CAC and A1A, like episodic ataxia type 2. And it kind of like works a similar way, except they have genetic differences. The cause of episodic ataxia type 2 is often missense mutations and things like that, while spinocerebellar ataxia type 6 is the repeats of CAG, and you can get more into that and do research on the scientific genetic differences between the two, and it'll tell you more. I'm not very good at explaining those details, but they appear very similar, like the same disorder, but they have genetic differences that cause them. So, earlier on in SCA6, the disorder can look like you have episodic ataxia type 2. So, it's very confusing. The thing to look out for is that SCA6 often starts to show itself later in life than compared to EA2. So that's the main difference between the two and the genetic differences. So the disorders do overlap. I am not going to lie. Episodic ataxia type 2 tends to look very similar to a lot of spinocerebellar ataxias, especially spinocerebellar ataxia type 6, because they come from the same gene. Researchers suggest that the symptoms kind of overlap, and they are very similar in symptoms. So it's very common for episodic ataxia type 2 to reminiscent to be sort of like spinocerebellar ataxia. It's also very common for episodic ataxia type 2 to reminiscent or be similar to familial hemiplegic migraine. Specifically for EA2, familial hemiplegic migraine type 1 is associated with the same gene. And again, that overlapping. But the point of making this video is to cover the very common misperception about the episodic ataxia and the treatment that surrounds the disorder. You can look up anything online and it'll tell you like, well, that EA2 is associated with episodes of ataxia. You take axilzolamide and it resolves the symptoms. Well, there's more to it than that. And people don't seem to realize or dig further into it. So I wanted to make this video to kind of like bring about some awareness because I have the experience behind it. I have researched a lot of it and I have dug deep into it. Because I kind of want to understand what I am living with. And I did go through a genetic counselor. I went through a genetic doctor as well, which kind of like helped me understand a lot of the symptoms and what I am going through. So anyways, I hope this brought you a little bit of insight. And I'll see you soon. Bye now.